Howdy, and welcome to episode 38 of T-Shirts and Shawls. I'm Karen, and today is Thursday, September 21st, 2017, and Wally is down here wanting my attention, so might want to jump up in my lap and say hi. Instead of waiting until the end segment, say hi to Wally now. Okay, so I have had kind of a rough week as far as physical health is concerned. Luke was sick starting last week on Thursday, and then I was sick, and I'm still kind of getting over being sick. I don't know if you can still hear it in my voice right now. Yesterday, my voice basically dropped a couple of octaves. So I'm glad that yesterday was not podcast recording day, because I would not have been able to do it. And I can still feel that my voice is not quite back to normal yet. So I'm going to try to actually make this a little bit of a shorter episode so that I'm not talking as much and potentially with my voice that is not fully functional yet. So with that in mind, I'm actually going to skip the normal first two sections, the t-shirt and the shawl. So basically the sections that the podcast is named after. But I'm going to just kind of jump in and talk about what I've been knitting. So with not feeling very well over the weekend, and then Luke not feeling well before that, so basically like a whole week that I really haven't been kind of on top of things. So not a lot of knitting has gotten done in the past week. But I did get a fair amount of time on one project. So because I wanted something kind of really simple, since I wasn't feeling well, I picked up the sock that I was working on. And, sorry, Wally jumped in the lap again. So before I was sick, I don't actually remember where I was on the last podcast episode, but before I was sick, I was probably like up to here on the leg. So I turned the heel and finished out the sock. So that was kind of a nice benefit of not really being very active this weekend and getting to kind of sit down and take a rest. So this is Jinx Yarns in the House Cup colorway. So that's a Harry Potter related colorway. And I realize that the lighting in here today, seems a little darker. So the colors these are not super bright colors, but they seem a little darker on camera than they really should be. But anyway, so Jinx Yarns in the House Cup colorway, Harry Potter inspired. And I barely started on the second sock. I always like to make sure that I at least start the second sock as soon as I finish the first sock. That's how I try not to have to worry about second sock syndrome. So it's still in the little tube that I keep it in to protect my needles. So you can barely see the second sock peeking out. I think I've done like 3 rounds, so barely enough to really count, but it is cast on and started. So the second sock is going there. And if you can tell from the color in there, that gold color, and then the color at the start here, I am not worrying about making these matching socks. So not going to concern myself with getting the stripes to line up exactly right. And usually I'm not concerned about that. The socks that I just finished making out of Mustache Yarn, because she does divide up the skein into two evenly matched skeins, it's somewhat a little easier to match the socks if you want to. And I just thought I would try it with that one, since I normally don't do that. But I kind of like having socks that match but aren't perfectly matched. Anyway, so I've mostly made progress on that. The thing that I've made some progress, but the least amount of progress on is, again, this is technically what I'm designing, but I'm just going to put it in what I'm knitting. So this is that green shawl that I am redoing so that it will not be upside down, because if you look at it this way, that's the way that you're knitting, but when you actually wear it, that's the way you wear it. So the flowers, which hopefully you can kind of see the little flower motifs there, the flowers, grab Wally, hi Wally, the flowers will not be upside down when you wear it in this new design. that one, I'm at the point where, it's in lace weight yarn, so that takes a while anyway. I have 200 stitches on the needle, which isn't terrible, but it takes quite a while to do each row, and I just really haven't been putting very much time into that, which I need to turn around and put more time into it. But what I really have been working on is the Wicked shawl, and I'm just gonna have to juggle Wally in my lap and trying not to get him to eat any of the yarn. So my Wicked shawl, that is my fairy tale inspired pattern for this quarter's knit along. So this is coming very close to the end. So I'm getting, in fact, I think I'm definitely in the black now, and the yarn itself, black is the last color. So I'm toward the end. I think I have 2 more rows to go of this repeat, and I have enough yarn that I should be able to do at least half of another repeat, maybe even a whole repeat. It's one of those patterns where you can finish on a repeat in the halfway point or at the end of the repeat. So I'm going to weigh my yarn, kind of see how much I have and how much more I can do. But you can see the pretty gradient colors. This is from Panorama Fiber. She does some really wonderful gradient yarns. So I definitely recommend her yarn. And Wally is seeing this dangling cast on down here, and he really wants to play with it. So try not to make that too enticing. There are beads in there. I think I showed you guys the beads last time. And so hopefully this will be done by the end of the month, which is the end of the quarter, and I will have my entry for the knit along. And I'm starting to see more finished objects being posted in the Ravelry thread for the knit along. So make sure that if you are participating and you do have a finished object, that you post it before the end of the month, so that way you can be eligible for the drawing. There are 3 different prizes this month, so 3 winners. And I guess really it's about time to start thinking about the theme for next quarter's knit along. So I need to make myself a note whenever I'm setting up the discussion thread for this episode. I should also set up a nomination thread for the theme for next quarter's knit along. So along with the discussion on for this episode, depending on when you're watching this, if it's before the end of September 30th, there will be a nomination thread, and then that will be open for a few days, and then we will do the voting thread, which will be open for a few days, so that by October 1st we know what the theme for quarter 4 knit along is going to be. Yeah, so that is really what I've been knitting the past couple of weeks, and now the sun is coming out and and kind of brightening up the lighting in here, so you could probably see things better. Just kind of curiosity. Yep, I think again the colors aren't super bright, but now that I think the lighting is better, you can see the colors in that a little bit better. So anyway, like I said, that's what I have been knitting for the past couple of weeks. I do have a few things that I've added to my stash. I actually thought this was going to be a little bit bigger segment this week because this past weekend was Stitches Texas, and I thought that I would go on Friday while Luke was at school. But like I said in the opening, Luke was sick, so he did not go to school on Friday, and so I did not get to go to Stitches that day, and I thought, well, maybe I could go on Saturday, leave Luke home with my husband. And then on Saturday, that was the day that I felt the absolute worst. And Sunday I wasn't that much better, so I completely missed Stitches Texas this time around. I'd hoped to be able to go and to come back with a few things. But I have picked up a couple of other things in the mail over the past 2 weeks. So I've mentioned Mustache yarn quite a bit. Her self-striping colors, the sheer number of stripes that she does. I honestly do not know how she does it. I'm just thinking about my process and what it would take to potentially do the same thing she does. I'm really not sure. So I really like her self-striping yarn, and I got her newsletter, and she had several actually kind of fall colors that were in stock. And then I went to her and then I felt a few other colors, and I went to her website, and at first I thought that there were some fall ones that I was going to get, but then I saw that she had she calls, I'll show you the color in a second, she calls it Kama Sutra. It is 20 even stripes. 20 stripes. And I've been wanting to get this colorway for a while because 20 stripes just sounds pretty awesome. So I was really excited to see that she had it in stock, so I had to pick it up. So you can see so many colors in there. And once again, on her label, she puts a little picture of the sample so you can see what the sock looks like. So lots and lots of colors in there. So I'm excited to add that to my stash. And then I also saw this one called Family Reunion, and it has 12 even stripes. And I really liked the colors in this. And now the light's like really bright. It's almost washing things out. So I really, really liked the colors in this. And again, here is the little picture kind of showing the striping in there. So, so those are the two that I picked up. I didn't grab any of the fall ones. Which were gorgeous. I just, you know, I do have to have a limit. And at that time, I thought I was going to go to Stitches, Texas, and so I wanted to save some of my yarn budget for that. Anyway, the other thing that I have is my next shipment from the Elemental Fiberworks club. So I left it unopened so I could do the thing where I open it on camera. So this is still in the mailing envelope, so it's a little crinkly. I'm going to try to keep the crinkling to a minimum. Here we go. I'm going to kind of look at the little note first. So this one, we're on the exoplanets. So this is a rogue planet that we are, is the basis for this. So it's got basically a bunch of letters and numbers as far as what it is called. Oh, wow. Yay, more of my colors. Okay. Whew, yay, pretty. You guys will know in just a second. Okay, so here's the postcard. Oh yeah, perfect. Here's the beautiful fiber. Oh my gosh, gotta get it out of that plastic. Look at those purples and the gray. Oh, gorgeous. Yay, matches my hair. This is organic Polworth and silk. So awesome fiber, awesome colors. I've really liked I've really liked all of the colors that she sent. Some have been a little more my colors than others. This one I think is definitely perfect for me. So yay, really exciting about that one. And I can't believe that sat around for a couple of days, unopened, because I was wanting to show you guys. And then there are little things that she puts in. There's some candy, and oh my gosh, the cutest button. It's in plastic, so I'm going to take it out of plastic. This is so cute. So going with the space theme. Arter this world. Isn't that cute? Little otter. Ah, I love otters. Whenever we go to the zoo or places like that and they have otters, I spend quite a bit of time watching the otters playing. So the cute little button, yay! Very, very good package. So that's from Elemental Fiberworks. And like I said, since I didn't get to go to Stitches, I don't have anything else to share for what I'm stashing. So since I mentioned getting that button in the what I'm stashing section, I'm going to show you, this is my little knitting basket where my knitting projects live, and also where my button collection lives. So there is the new button I just got to add it to my basket. Okay, so next section is what I'm dyeing. And last time I told you guys that I was working on a wholesale order for Threads and You, who was at Stitches, Texas, and I did manage to get up to the Urban Convention Center when vendors were doing the setup and drop off that wholesale order. So she had that for Stitches. So if you guys went to Stitches and went by her booth, she had a good selection of some of my yarn. And she has an additional order that she's placed for more colors because she travels to festivals throughout the year. So she has more coming up, and this next order, she wants to get in time for the Houston Quilt Show. So she goes both to quilt festivals and as well as fiber festivals. And so if any of you are going to the Houston Quilt Show, or if you live around Houston and you're potentially interested, there are actually some of the vendors, most of it is quilting stuff, but there are some of the vendors who bring yarn to the show, and Shelly from Threads and You is one of them. So if you're doing the Houston Quilt Show, which is in November, I think it's the first weekend in November, make sure to go by her booth and she'll have some of my yarn there. So that's what I'm working on mostly as far as what I'm dyeing. I'm also trying to kind of rebuild my self-striping inventory. So speaking of self-striping, I have a special Halloween colorway that I have released for this year. So this is a little sample of that Halloween colorway. It is orange and black, and I decided instead of just doing, usually my stripes are these thinner stripes, that's the size I usually do. I thought instead of just doing the thin stripes, orange and black, I would alternate thin stripes with the thicker stripes. So that way you get a little bit more of a variety in this self-striping yarn. So that is the Halloween colorway. It is available now through Halloween. After Halloween, it'll be retired until next year. I will bring it back out next year. My goal with these holiday colors, I think what I will do is have a new color every year for that holiday, but also have a little bit of the previous year's holiday self-striping colorway. So if you missed it the year before, then maybe you could get it the next year. Although I won't do as much of that as I would the new colorway for that year. So anyway, so that's the colorway for this year. It is named, and this is even a name that I'm not totally sure how to pronounce, Tarn Wathaline. It is the name of a lake, and it is a lake near which Guinevere and Gawain have a ghostly encounter. So it's perfect for a Halloween colorway. And the whole story is on the website, or you can, if you get the yarn on the inside of the label, I have the story typed out. So the special Halloween colorway, I did a couple of already dyed, stumbling over my words, already dyed skeins. I had several batches of those, and I just sold the last ready to go one yesterday. It was either yesterday or the day before yesterday. So I have dyed the next batch, and I currently have the yarn listed as a pre-order just because it's not ready to ship right away. But the next batch currently is waiting for me to finish recording this so I can go rinse it out and hang it on the drying rack. It should dry overnight, and then I should be able to reskein it tomorrow, so it would be ready to ship potentially tomorrow afternoon, but most likely on Saturday. So I have a next batch of 6 skeins. So again, if you want the Halloween yarn, it is available for pre-order for the batch that is currently about to be on the drying rack. So that way you can get that. The other thing that I'm working on is the fundraiser. Sorry, being sick really, messes with your brain, and thoughts don't come quite as quickly. So fundraiser for the Hemophilia Foundation, specifically the DFW chapter. One of you guys, Tim, his partner's son has hemophilia, and so they do the walk every October for a fundraiser for the DFW Hemophilia chapter. And so last year we did a fundraiser. If you were watching the podcast, or if you were on my newsletter or whatever last year, it was a red color that I did on Lancelot, and then Elisa from the Knitting Fairy designed a hat pattern to go along with that red Lancelot. This year I have a blue with flecks of silver, so sky blue with flecks of silver, as the colorway, named Sir Brian, because Brian is the name of the boy with hemophilia. So you can see It is the fundraiser. And Elisa designed a fingerless mitt pattern in 4 sizes. So that goes along with the yarn. So the kit is $29.50, and $20 of every kit goes toward the Hemophilia Foundation. So we tried to basically cut it down to the bare bones of what our costs were for the pattern and for the yarn, so we could donate as much as possible to the Hemophilia Foundation. So I do have 4 skeins at home that are ready to go. I have it listed on my website for sale, so you can buy it there, or if you are local and you go into the Knitting Fairy, you can go to the Knitting Fairy and order it there. Sometimes it will be ready to go, and sometimes it'll be something that I need to dye. I basically, as soon as all of the skeins are exhausted, as soon as another order comes in, I go ahead and dye 4, so that way I can have some available. The walk is in October. I believe it is October 22nd, so I think we need to have the donations in a couple of days before that. So the cutoff for the fundraiser will be around October 20th. So I hope that if you're interested in helping out with that and getting some really neat yarn, that you check the show notes for the link, or just go to roundtableyarns.com and you can search for it. So that is really what I've been working on as far as dyeing. So I can hear my voice is starting to get a little bit, at least to me, it's starting to not sound quite as normal, and my throat's starting to get a little bit sore. So I do have stuff that I want to talk about, especially for what I'm watching. So I'm just gonna kind of keep going. Anyway, so what I'm watching. Outlander started back up, the new season, and it is only available on Stars. Last year, our cable package that we had, we had Stars, and so I was able to watch it actually on TV. This year we don't have that same cable package, and so we don't have Stars, so I was trying to figure out how to watch it, and then I realized that through Amazon, I don't know if you have to have Amazon Prime or if you can just do it through Amazon without Prime, but we have Amazon Prime. You can subscribe to the Stars channel, and it goes on a month-by-month basis. You get like a 7-day trial, and then I think it's like $8.99 a month or something. And then you can cancel any time. So I thought, okay, well, while Outlander's airing, I'll sign up for Stars and watch Outlander, and then when Outlander is done, then I'll just cancel that. Well, why just use Stars for Outlander? Why not look at other shows? So my husband has been catching up on things like Black Sails, a show that he really has enjoyed, and there is quite a bit available on this Stars subscription. So I will talk about one exciting, at least to me, thing that I found on the Stars subscription in just a minute. But for Outlander, I want to start with that. So I read the Outlander books. I can't remember if it was while I was still working on my started reading the Outlander books while I was still working on my PhD, or if it was just shortly thereafter. But it was around that time that I started reading Outlander. And just devoured the books. They are super, super big books, but the story is just so compelling that it's really easy just to read straight through them. So most of them I have read, and not, I say in print, but really I mean on my Kindle. And then I've also listened to some of them through audiobook. And the narrator who does the audiobook is Davina Porter, and her voice is just absolutely fabulous. In fact, there's an option on Audible, which is where I get my audiobooks, that you can actually see what other books a narrator has done. So you can check out, what other books an author has done, but you can also see what other books a narrator has done. And I went and looked to see what other books she's done, just to see, because I really like her voice so much, to see if there was anything else I was potentially interested in. And it turns out she actually also narrates Mists of Avalon. So that's fun. Anyway, so I've been, a fan of the books for a good chunk of time. So with the series, a little hesitant at first, trying to get that shift from book to screen sometimes doesn't go well. But I think overall, Outlander, the show, has done a pretty good job of bringing the books to life. So it's been really exciting to kind of see some of the things in the books translated to screen. But I have to admit, I haven't been looking forward to this season quite as much, because it's the book that, and the books have been out for long enough that I don't think that's too spoilery, or too, because it's too new that you want to keep away from spoilers. But there are people that I know that haven't read the books and who are watching the show, and so I don't want to give things away. So if you are either not familiar with Outlander but you want to be, or if you are watching the show and you don't really want to know what's coming up, then you might skip ahead a couple of minutes here, because I'm going to say a few things that are spoilers if you're not familiar with it. Okay, so this part of the book I just have a hard time forgiving the author for. Basically, she keeps Jamie and Claire apart for 20 years, and that just I really hate that they spend so much time apart. And I think there are good narrative reasons for needing them to be apart. Kind of the aftermath of the rebellion really is not a place for Claire. With everything that Jamie has to go through in order to survive after that. So there really isn't a good place for her. She was pregnant, so it would not have been a good place for a baby to be born and brought up. If she was able to stay at Lollybrock with Jenny, then things probably would have been okay. But because she was traveling with Jamie and part of the rebellion, she might have been arrested. So it probably was better that Claire was not there. But 20 years, I mean, gosh, that's such a long time. So basically, we're at the part in the show where they're separated, where Claire is back in her time, and basically back with Frank, with her first husband. And as much as I enjoy seeing what is happening, especially with Jamie, and kind of seeing Claire's daughter be born and Claire and Jamie's daughter be born, I just really don't like seeing them apart very much. So I'm not sure when, because even though I've read the books, I try not to read too much about the show because I don't want to know too much about what's going to happen in each episode. So I'm not sure at what point where in this season they're going to have that really wonderful scene where they are reunited. But just knowing it's coming at least has helped. But it's really hard to have them be apart. Anyway, But I'm happy to be back in the Outlander world. I really like Outlander. So the other thing about getting the Starz channel through Amazon, so when you get it just like through regular cable, the show comes on at a particular time, like 8 o'clock at night or something. And so, you have to wait until 8 o'clock at night to watch it. When you subscribe to the Starz channel on Amazon, that day, so the shows air on Sunday morning, I can go and watch it through the Amazon Starz channel. I didn't realize that. So that was really nice. I actually subscribed to it the day of the first episode, because I thought I would start the 7-day trial and kind of see what it was like. And I immediately had access since it was the day of release. That morning, I think it was like 11 a.m. or something. So I just stopped what I was doing and sat down and watched it. So that's kind of a neat little benefit of subscribing through the Amazon channel. Okay, so the other benefit, like I said, there are a lot of other shows that are available. And I was really, really excited to see a show that I was in love with when I was younger, that I haven't really been able to see for quite some time. I'll give you the show name in just a minute. But basically, it was a show that came on in I think it ran from 89 to 92. So I was in junior high in my freshman year of high school. And since then, there are 3 seasons. The first season of the show was released on DVD quite a few years ago, and I picked that up. But I really wanted seasons 2 and 3, and they weren't available. And I even had signed up for that thing on Amazon where it says notify me whenever these seasons are available. And I never got notified. And it turns out apparently seasons 2 and 3 were released on DVD, actually a couple of years ago. And Amazon did not notify me. But I guess there were a few episodes in one of those seasons that they actually did not put on the DVDs. For some reason. Anyway, so I wasn't aware that those were out, but for the longest time I only thought I had access to season 1, and I still have that on DVD. But it was kind of frustrating whenever I watched season 1 because I wanted the story to continue, and I knew that I didn't have access to seasons 2 and 3. So on Starz, they have all of the seasons 1, 2, and 3 available of this show. So, the show, what is it? It is called The Young Riders. And I'm really not much of a Western person, but there are certain ones that I really like, so this is one of them. So if you're not familiar with the show, the premise is that it follows Pony Express riders, and some of them are completely fictional, and some of them are fictionalized versions of historic figures. So for example, and these are all when they are very, very young, so probably around 18. I think the actors are a little older, so it makes them seem a little older, but they're really always referred to as boys. So I think they're meant to be thought of as quite young. So some of the historical people are the people who eventually become Wild Bill Hickok, William F. Cody or Buffalo Bill Cody. And in, I believe it's season 3, which I haven't gotten there in my rewatch yet, season 3, maybe it was season 2, but I'm pretty sure it's season 3, a very young Jesse James. So, like I said, they do definitely play with history there, because Wild Bill Hickok was not ever a Pony Express rider. Supposedly, Buffalo Bill Cody was a Pony Express rider when he was very, very young. But at least he claimed to be, but there really aren't records that confirm that. Anyway, so they do play with history somewhat, but overall it's a really good show. I really, and the reasons I like it is because it's one of those ensemble shows that really cares about the characters, that really, even though they have all of the stuff that's going on around them, the focus on the show is on the characters and their relationships, and each episode kind of focuses on one central character. And so it's been so nice. I'm still actually back in the first season. I'm almost at the end of the first season. I'm really looking forward to getting into seasons 2 and 3. It feels really nice to be back with these characters that I got to know so long ago. This is, at least for me, a show that has stood the test of time, that I'm still enjoying many years later. There are shows that I used to watch when I was younger that I have tried to rewatch now as an adult that have not stood that test, and that I think, why on earth did I like that show? Fortunately, The Young Riders is not one of them. So it's something I'm still very much enjoying. So kind of around that time, the junior high time, that was where I was really interested in some of the other shows like this, or movies. So the Young Guns movies about Billy the Kid were the two that I was really into back then. So I really, really liked Young Guns and Young Riders way back then. Another show, and I believe this was when I was in high school that it came out, though I haven't double-checked the dates. Another one of my favorite shows around the same idea was The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. love, love, love The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr., and that is another one that has stood the test of time, that I own on DVD. I actually haven't rewatched it in a couple of years, so I probably should do that. But I still enjoy that show even many years later. So Adventures of Briscoe County Jr., super fun show. And then, kind of thinking about it, my love of Firefly and Serenity, it's often mentioned that Firefly is kind of a space western. So, and there is actually one episode where they are planetside riding horses. Anyway, so the idea that it's kind of a space western. So I guess there is kind of part of me that really does like certain kinds of shows and movies that are in that western genre. So anyway, I have been greatly enjoying rewatching The Young Riders, and very glad that I checked out the Stars channel subscription, and that I'm able to get some of those things while I'm subscribed and watching Outlander. So my voice is definitely going now. I really apologize for that. Hopefully I sound at least a little bit normal and not too weird. Anyway, but before I go, I do want to give you a quick update on the cats. Eva and Wally are doing really well. You saw Wally a little bit at the beginning. He is now taking a little nap stretched out on the carpet over here. He definitely seems like he belongs in this family for sure, because he has picked out his favorite toy. He has a toy that he definitely enjoys carrying around and playing with. And it is a cat toy, so it's a good thing. It is a little Millennium Falcon. So we've got a Star Wars fan as one of our cats. I don't know, maybe it's just the right size or whatever. But it's kind of fun seeing him run around with it in his mouth and batting it around. Anyway, so the kittens are doing really well. As far as Sam, yesterday I took him to the eye doctor for a follow-up visit about his eye. And super great news, the doctor said that his eye looks fantastic. The part that had where the graft hadn't fully taken has basically grown and healed itself. He said never underestimate the healing powers of a cat's cornea. So I guess cat corneas heal themselves pretty well. And the doctor was very, very happy with how it looked. So much so that he said we can discontinue the eye medications we were giving him. Basically 4 times a day, I had to give him an eye drop, wait 5 minutes, and then have 2 different ointments that I put in his eye. So doing that 4 times a day has been kind of exhausting, but super excited that I don't have to do that anymore. But also for the reason that I don't have to do it, because his eye really is doing so much better. And even I can tell, even though I don't really know much about what I'm looking for, I can tell that his eye looks a lot better. So we have a follow-up visit in a month, just to, make absolutely sure that things are still progressing well. But it looks like this is, the best outcome from his surgery. So, whew, kind of good news going on there. As far as his, he'd also been getting B12 injections because his, I think it's called the cobalamin, levels were not quite right. He got blood work this week for that. We're waiting on the results to kind of see how that's going, and we're continuing the B12 injections because they definitely do help. So, he's a senior cat. He's now 15. I think this is about the time of year that we got him. So 15. So an elderly cat. Got a few little things that are issues, but overall he is doing really well. So really happy to have good news to share about that. Thank you so much for watching. If you are a new viewer, there are usually a few extra segments, especially at the beginning of the show. I usually actually have a specific shirt and shawl that I talk about. So if you are a new viewer, either go back and watch one of the previous episodes, you can kind of see what those segments are like, or just stay tuned for an episode in 2 weeks where I will be back to the regular segments. For those of you who are regular viewers, thank you so much for coming back and watching. And apologies for not having those segments this time, but again, I can tell my voice is nearing the end of what I probably should be using it today. So anyway, I will go ahead and get this episode uploaded and ready to go, and I will post a link in the forum, both for a discussion for this episode as usual, as well as a nomination thread for next quarter's knit along. So make sure you go over to Ravelry and check out the podcast group so you can see those threads, nominate themes. If you're not sure what kinds of themes we're talking about, first of all, we're going to go back to shawls. So we took a little bit break, and you could do something that wasn't a shawl this time around, but we're going to go back to shawls. You could do a theme that has to do with the type of stitches used in the shawl. So it could be, a shawl that uses lace, a shawl that uses cables. You could do something to do with colors. One of our themes once was a shawl that uses at least 2 colors. You could do a theme that is based upon kind of the inspiration behind the name of a pattern, like we're doing this quarter, patterns inspired by or named after fairy tales. Just basically, any kind of theme that would open up a variety of patterns, of shawl patterns for people to choose from, but that you might be interested in. So come over to the thread, nominate something. I'll keep that thread open for a few days. I'll post specific dates on the thread, so check there. I'll keep that open for a few days, and then I will do the voting thread so we can vote based on the nominations and pick the quarter 4 knit along theme, which will start October 1st. In the meantime, make sure you're finishing up your quarter 3 knit along projects. Post them in the FO thread so that you can be eligible for one of the 3 prizes. Again, thank you so much for watching. If you are watching on iTunes, if you could leave a review, I would really appreciate that. If you're watching on YouTube, you can click the thumbs up underneath the episode. And you can also, if you want, you can leave a comment there as well. And make sure that you subscribe, whether you're watching this on YouTube or iTunes. And until next time, happy knitting!